Even those who have never opened the Bible or followed Jesus have heard of Israel's great king, David. But did you know that King David's great-grandmother was a woman whose courage and loyalty made sure he would one day be born? This is her incredible story. The book of Ruth is like a small jewel with 4 polished sides. Each side faces the one across from it, creating a neat pattern. The first chapter opens with hardship, while chapter 4 closes with happiness. Inside, chapters 2 and 3 form the middle of the story, turning tragedy into hope. When we set these chapters side by side, they look like a mirror. Pain reflects into joy. Chance meetings grow into careful promises, and quiet trust swells into loud celebration. This careful design helps us notice that even though God's name appears only a handful of times, His hand rests on every page, guiding people who cannot yet see the bigger picture. Our story begins in Bethlehem, a town whose name means house of bread, yet bread has vanished. A fierce famine dries up the fields and leaves many families hungry. One of those families belongs to a man named Elimelech. To keep his wife Naomi and their 2 sons alive, Elimelech chooses to travel east into Moab, a land that often fought with Israel. The road is long, the move is risky, but staying means certain hunger. Sadly, soon after settling in Moab, Elimelech dies. Naomi leans on her boys, who marry Moabite women, Ruth and Orpah. For a short time, the family rebuilds, but disaster strikes again. When both sons become sick and pass away, 3 widows remain, sharing a house full of memories, but no easy future. Word reaches Naomi that the Lord has returned bread to Bethlehem. She decides to go home, hoping at least to die among her own people. On the dusty road out of Moab, Naomi turns to her daughters-in-law with tears. "Go back to your mothers," she urges. "May the Lord give each of you a new husband and a peaceful home." Orpah kisses Naomi goodbye and slowly walks back. Ruth, however, clings to Naomi's arm. Her eyes glow with determined kindness, as she speaks words that echo through the ages. "Don't urge me to leave you. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God." In that moment, Ruth trades the familiar safety of home for the unknown risks of faithfulness. When Naomi and Ruth reach Bethlehem, the women of the town barely recognize Naomi. She asks them to call her Mara, meaning bitter, because she feels God has emptied her life. Yet at the same time, it is the start of the barley harvest, an important clue that hope is sprouting, even while Naomi cannot see it. Israel's law provides a loving safety net for the poor. After workers cut the grain, they must leave the edges and any fallen stalks, so widows and foreigners can gather food. Ruth rises early and heads to the fields to glean. By what seems to be chance, she ends up in the fields of Boaz, a wealthy landowner who is also a relative of Elimelech. Boaz greets his workers with the words, "The Lord be with you," showing that he honors God both in speech and in business. Boaz notices Ruth gathering grain behind the harvesters. When he learns about her loyalty to Naomi, he is deeply impressed. He tells her to stay in his fields, drink from his water jars, and he orders his men not to bother her. At lunch, he invites her to eat bread dipped in vinegar and hands her roasted grain until she is full. He even instructs his workers to pull out extra handfuls of barley and leave them for her to pick up easily. Ruth returns home that evening, carrying nearly an ephah of grain, about 30 pounds, more than enough for several weeks. Naomi's eyes widen as she sees the overflowing bundle. When she learns that Boaz is the generous landowner, hope flickers alive. Boaz is what Israelites call a kinsman redeemer, someone who can buy back lost land and carry on the family name by marrying a widow if he chooses. Naomi crafts a bold plan. After the harvest celebration, Boaz will sleep at the threshing floor to guard his grain. She instructs Ruth to wash, put on her best clothes, and quietly lie at Boaz's feet once he is asleep, a cultural sign that she is asking him to take her under his protection. Ruth obeys. At midnight, Boaz wakes and finds Ruth at his feet. She whispers, "Spread your corner over me, for you are a redeemer." Boaz praises her kindness in choosing him, an older relative, instead of chasing younger men. He promises to act, but explains that another relative is closer in line. Still, he will settle the matter in the morning. True to his word, Boaz meets the nearer redeemer at the city gate, where legal matters are decided. In front of 10 elders, he offers the man the chance to buy Naomi's land. The man agrees, until Boaz adds that Ruth the Moabite must also be married to raise up the dead man's name. Worried about harming his own inheritance, the relative withdraws. Boaz publicly announces his purchase of the land and his marriage to Ruth. The elders bless the union, praying that Ruth will be like Rachel and Leah, who built the house of Israel. Ruth and Boaz marry, and God grants them a son named Obed, meaning one who serves. Naomi gathers the child in her arms, and the women around her proclaim that the Lord has not left her without a redeemer. The baby's cries turn Naomi's grief into laughter. Obed grows up to father Jesse, and Jesse fathers David, the shepherd who will become king. Many generations later, another baby will be born in Bethlehem, descended from David, Jesus, called the Christ. Ruth's brave choice to love Naomi and trust God echoes all the way to the manger. What can we learn from this short but powerful book? First, God values faithfulness over fame. Ruth and Boaz are not mighty warriors or prophets. They are ordinary people who choose kindness when it costs them something. Second, God welcomes outsiders. Ruth begins the story as a foreigner, but ends as a foremother of Israel's greatest king. Third, God is always working, even when we cannot see him. Naomi thought her life was ruined, yet God was weaving each painful thread into a story of redemption. If this story has encouraged you, please like, subscribe, and share so that more people can discover the quiet beauty of God's work in everyday lives. Join us next time as we open the book of 1 Samuel, the bridge from Israel's judges to its kings. We'll see Hannah's heartfelt prayer answered with the birth of Samuel. Watch young David face the giant Goliath and follow the dramatic rise and fall of King Saul. These stories of prayer, courage, and obedience still speak to the challenges we face today, so don't miss it.